really long time since I last gave this, like live offline talk. And so what is now on my mind? Do I have to sort of put a plus in the chat box, like, well, can you see my video? Is everything working fine? Yeah, no need for that. Okay, so would you prefer me to be standing here or sitting
It's
down?
up to you. So how do you feel it's comfortable?
It's all about the size, but anyway, so we'll try both. Good. So. Well, let's get started. And basically, this is not my first slide. Let me just go back. But yeah, there was a spoiler. Right. So I'm going to play this video for you. And the question to you is, what is happening here? And I have to work out how to do that. Easier for me to do it with a mouse, but only touchpad option because it is a video and it is supposed to be working.
What kind of file is it? Is it PowerPoint?
Yes.
Maybe there are some macros they should be switched on or something. Should be played.
Let me try again. If it doesn't,
well, we can just
imagine.
Organize brainstorm activity and just say.
What do you think the video is supposed to be showing?
Okay.
In fact, when I was filming it, I was moving my camera like this. Like across the room.
Pair work for discussion.
Okay, so the students here are doing
It's like a
work.
production stage, definitely.
Okay.
So they practice probably some material that they have learned before. So, and
Okay, good. So what else do you think you might see if it were working? Okay, so would there
like
be more
all the
people?
students in pairs
Yes.
around the class talking
Yes,
to
right.
each
Using
other.
the notes, something. Yeah.
England probably.
And the notes are, what might they be? Who made them?
Notes?
The notes.
The students?
The students
Yes.
themselves.
No.
The teacher?
Yes, it was me who made them, and they are very special kind of notes. So, do you think all the students would be talking in pairs?
Not
Or you
necessarily.
Okay, right. So, some would be in groups of 3, probably of 4. Some would be sitting, some would be standing, like these ones, and would be all chatting like at the same time together. Why? Where are they? Do you think? Well, the obvious answer is
The class.
yes. I mean, like physically, we are in a classroom.
Or maybe it's a party.
Metaphorically, this is where they are. Metaphorically, they are in an office of their head office in London, with a beautiful view over the River Thames. Doing what? Well, judging by the title of this role play, the Big London Meetup.
Discussing a project.
Okay, they might be, or they might be just what was happening a few
It's
minutes
a role
ago.
play.
They are networking. I mean, in this game reality, role play reality, they are networking just like we were a few minutes ago. Right, why would they be doing that? Physically being in a classroom, but in their imagination being in London. Because it's a role play, yeah, as you said. Okay. So, well, obviously they have to have quite a rich imagination. Okay, so and now I'm going to have to say hello again. So hello, I'm Marina and I'm a game designer. That's not my kind of main occupation, so mostly I teach English, but recently, in the last 3 years, I started creating not all kinds of games, but usually, well, mostly role plays. So this is a kind of list of them, and today, what we're going to be doing is looking at ways to storify a course, either the whole course or a module, probably, or a topic which usually takes well, a few classes to teach and to practice. Okay, so do you create role plays of your own, or do you use stories, well, like ready-made stories, ready-made role plays in your classes?
I usually create.
Okay,
Ready-made.
ready-made.
Create by myself.
Okay. Why would you create them by yourself?
Because it's an ESP course, so and you cannot find any ready-made topics for that. So if we teach adults, of course, we create these role plays ourselves, according to the demands and requests from the course. And as for kids, of course, we can use ready-made stories and we can just dramatize them.
The so-called tailor-made activities for this concrete group, for this concrete topic, tailor-made activity.
Okay. Good. So basically it's to fit the needs of your students better. And sometimes you just have to because there are no ready-made ones which fit the course, the topics. Okay, good. So today I'm going to run through very briefly through the major stages of creating role play and ways of storifying a course. I'm going to mostly draw examples from this one, the Big London Meetup, where the main target is networking, practicing those skills. But I will also be sometimes, so it's another video which probably won't work. Some examples from other ones like The Receptionist, which is a job interview simulation with a detective twist to it, and Marks and Spencer, Deciding the Future, and this one in Russian for teachers. One more, but looks like I can't show everything I wanted to. Okay, anyway, so there was another picture showing, well, still another one, which is called Sotheby's, The Art of Investing, but it's not for investors, it's just for ordinary people, rated for my speaking club. So, what's the point? Because very often, something doesn't play again. Okay, so there would be examples of, some books for teachers and resource books where you can find ready-made activities and some, some cards, role cards. So, well, you can find them, but basically we have discussed this question already. So let's get moving. So, what reasons do you see in putting, interweaving your course content with the elements of games, or especially a story? Interweaving a story, putting it into your course. Any ideas now? Because actually we can come back to it later after I give you some
Just to
examples.
get students speaking, so they actually use the language they have just acquired in post-natural settings.
Absolutely. Right, and you create those settings which are very close to either their reality now, where they have to be using English, or some situations where they potentially find themselves when they start working or travel to a different country. Okay, good. Any other reasons that you can see?
So practice not only vocabulary but also grammar. Some
Okay.
grammar structures are appropriate for some discussion formulas.
Okay, if you have some kind of if you specify what to use, so you might have practiced something, now they have a list of things which they have to integrate naturally.
Like
when
the
they-
function of the language we have.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, well, I'm going to... Some beautiful pictures are missing, that's a shame. I'm going to try actually and switch to my PDF version, I suppose that might work better. Or maybe not, because well, it will take time again. Without a mouse, it's a bit challenging for me. Okay, so the picture here, just imagine, there's a roll of film, beautifully, rolled, multicolored, and some people who are actually doing something interesting right here. So, because one of the reasons is for them to feel like they are in a film, they are part of a series. Well, not all students like to act things out, well, that's for sure, but some of them do, and if a situation is something which is desirable for them, place where they want to be, like this London setting, so usually they're quite willing to do that. So they might feel like they're acting in a film. So well, here the reason to storify a course might be to engage your students. Okay. Now, if we look at this situation, actually it's taken at conference, business conference, where people are networking, and you can see them networking in many groups, pairs, groups of 3. So this is exactly what we can show during the classroom. So the picture here is supposed to show my students interacting again, but you saw this in many groups. Oh, it's very strange, so I should have checked it beforehand. So, and the students would also be doing the same. Why? Because this is what we did with them before, and only after that we started role-playing this particular episode of a story. Okay, so basically here, the reasons to storify a course would be to make it realistic, to bring the world into the classroom, providing those real-life scenarios, or maybe you want to make it very fantastic, who knows, it depends on the age of the students. So, and that's, this is what makes education relevant, as I see it at least. Another reason might be to assess without testing when you have your regular classes, right? So you do what you usually do, but then instead of small pictures of people interacting, instead of a test, setting a test, or giving some short role play, I, for example, would conduct a series of role plays because it's a whole story which has a few episodes, and the episodes basically copy the situations that we have been discussing throughout our course. So, and this would be the end of course assessment, after which of course reflection will follow, and we will look at how it went and what could have been done better, things like this. Okay, right. So now, if it shows, but it won't. Okay, so here was a picture, actually what my students really said. So what they liked, what they disliked, but there's actually nothing they disliked. The only thing they disliked about that semester when we did this extended role play, the Big London meetup, was that they wanted more. And they said that, well, like 4 episodes definitely were not enough. They wanted another few with more decisions that they could take. But basically, they really liked that the situations were realistic. They enjoyed the teamwork, and they enjoyed observation, not only like observing the others role play, because sometimes they wouldn't be doing it all together. Sometimes, well, like a few people would be role playing some part. Like, okay, so they go in, so they were invited to dinner at a private house because that's some British person that they know. So they take a couple of friends and they are going there by taxi. So there would be just a few students involved, while the others would be sitting and actually assessing. And they would have some sort of list with points to assess. Okay. So if we talk about the whole format, storifying is kind of bringing those situations, bringing not the course book to life, but bringing the content of the course to life. And that's the main idea. The formats which are interwoven, there are those 3 ones. There's a story which you think of, which fits the objectives or the learning objectives of your course. Then you break it down into episodes and turn into role play. How do we do it? So there are quite a lot of points actually. So I would just run through them very quickly. But basically, the main idea of how you do it. First, you have to think of a really interesting, engaging, gripping storyline. This storyline should really be interwoven into the topics. Yeah? So fit the learning objectives of your course precisely. If they have to be, if the course objective, one of them is networking, so provide the typical networking situations as part of the story. It should be inspiring, it should be broken down into episodes, and then reformatted into role play. So now I'm going to show a really big mind map. So you can't see it obviously, and I'm going to just show very briefly the stages, but Better though, I suggest if you want this one, you can download it later because one of the last slides will have a QR code which will take you to a web page which will say you can download it either in Russian or in English. The stages in developing a multi-episode roleplay. Okay, so step one is define the targets that your roleplay must meet. So first of all, on the right you can see how this stage was realized for my Big London meetup roleplay. So it was about small talk, networking, relationship building, but mostly I wanted to boost the students' engagement, involvement in the course, and give them a lot of opportunities to practice it in realistic situations. In the next step, we need to know who the participants are going to be. But usually we know our students, the target audience, so in this case they were intercultural communication majors in their second year, then it was just with fourth years, so with quite a high level of English up to the advanced level. Define the learning outcomes of the role play. So in this case, business communication skills, hands-on and improved for it, small talk and networking, plus a boost in self-confidence, because those students have never done this in real life. They have no idea, only by, something very second-hand idea by watching videos of people doing that in some improvised situations. That's why it was very important for them, not just to do it like, a 5-minute role play, no, with different characters, another one at another class, okay, still other characters for another 10 minutes in a different class, very kaleidoscopic. But like integrated, where they can take decisions and kind of move the story forward. Okay, then obviously you select the language that you want to be practiced, and at lower levels you might even provide some prompts, so like lists and so on. At high levels, this is what we've been practicing. It's all on their study plan, so I didn't feel any need to provide any prompts, besides that was a way to assess them. Okay. Now then, think about the format and the type of the role play after you have your story. So in my case, it was a series, a few episodes, and the format is actually game-based learning, when you learn by playing a game. STORIFY learning is another name for it, with all the different skills that we've been practicing involved. I'm sorry. So because here was a beautiful thing showing different game mechanics. Let me just try to see.
Presentation, you can not show it, but just, without showing it. And the
Yes.
pictures will be.
I'll try yes to do that.
No,
No, that's not the
you know what the reason might be? You don't have this video in the same folder with the presentation. Oh.
This is a picture now, so what?
Yeah, even the pictures sometimes.
Okay, let me just probably try and switch to Russian side. To the PDF version. I hope to do without it, but let's see. The videos will show. Oh yeah, that must be better, yes. In terms of the pictures at least. So what the students said. So even stepping out of their comfort zone was what they liked. So realistic situations, working in teams, and so on.
Imagination.
Yep. And where were we? Right. So we have to think of which elements and which game mechanics, like how the game is structured. So this is what you have to be thinking about. There should definitely be a legend and a scenario that you build around this legend. Different stages and people taking different roles, where they probably cooperate or maybe they compete. But again, so cooperation is still essential. They take actions after taking decisions, so decisions and then actions, because they have to achieve their goals, not learning goals, but the goals in their game. And for example, this is one example of choosing a legend. when you think about the game purpose, if it's cooperative or competitive, how a person can win, what is necessary to do to win. For example, in this particular role play, to win, you have to, first of all, just, it sounds very simple, like collect the largest amount of people's business cards after networking. But it's not that simple, because there is a condition. You can only take a person's business card if you have found some project that you can potentially do together, and you both agree that you can be of help to each other. Only then you get this person's, this character's role card, and you actually write which project you can do together on the other side. Then it counts, otherwise it doesn't. Also, there are the so-called likes. When there are episodes with people just watching, some people role-playing, those watching can give likes anonymously to different participants. And we can say, well, it's not the major criterion, but you can accumulate likes from others too. Okay, right. Now, the scenario, there could be different types. The simplest one is a linear one with no variations, like you determine what happens after what. Okay, they can't choose. But it would be more interesting to still branch a scenario. There are drawbacks to this one because it's so hard to bring all the students, all the different ideas, all the different sidelines together if it branches too much. So the main principle is there should be decision-making points where they really feel that if they take this decision, that's how a story develops. If they take a different one, it develops differently. Or this might slow down their way to their target. Okay, right, so this is an example of how a scenario might look for this game. So one event is people are met at Heathrow Airport, Londoners, and taken to their hotel. They check in. The next morning they wait for a taxi because they have to go to the company's annual meeting. And these are the main events. The company's annual meeting and 2 days of the conference plus the closing dinner party. There will be some minor events like an excursion, coffee breaks, meeting someone you know and catching up on news, discussing business and projects. So some minor events are interwoven here too. Then you develop a plot, not just a general one, but for each episode. It has to have ideally this sort of structure. But this is a typical structure when there is one main character. So character one is kind of the main character who has a goal, and in each episode, each character has to have a target, and it has to be in their role card. A goal to achieve, but there's always an obstacle, so there should be some conflict. Another obstacle is this conflict with another, or maybe more, other characters. And trying to overcome those obstacles and conflicts to reach their goal in this episode, the character has to take decisions, actions, and, probably cooperate with others. So, that's the bigger picture, where we can see the timeline at the top, like the kind of play days, which is mentioned obviously. The different locations from Heathrow Airport, then ABC Consulting Company name, headquarters in London, to the restaurant, and some places where they can just chat informally or go on to an excursion. Right, then different activities, which I showed you already, and different characters with sort of different relationships between them. So as for the relationships here, well, it's not very precise. I have a different scheme for that one. Right. So then basically, after you're ready with that, you help your students prepare. You prepare what you need to bring into the classroom, or maybe if you do it online, all the different presentations. So there will be character cards describing what situation and what kind of person you are, what situation you're in. Then business cards. They can be very simple like this, badges, just sticky notes, stuck there. Or they could be beautiful after a few play tests. Role cards specifying exactly what they have to do. I have an example here. So this is a role card for one episode for one person. So there's some character information, just I keep reminding them who they play and what situation they are in. Like you're head of the advertising department, blah, blah, blah. In this episode, That's the time, that's the location, that's the event that you're going to take place in. Your goals, take part in the meeting, talk to Ms. Likely, and stick to your schedule. And only later is the principle of adding information later, like bit by bit, so that the puzzle actually pieces together later. Only later, when this person thinks, okay, I'll arrive 10 minutes later, I'll talk to Ms. Likely, because my boss asked me to. But it appears that Ms. Likely is going to be late, and actually she is the chairperson, and everybody's going to wait for her, and she's stuck in traffic badly. That this guy has another meeting quite soon. And here's the decision to take. Do I leave and wait because I've got to talk to her, or, do I stay and wait because I've got to talk to Ms. Likely and actually take part in the meeting? Or do I leave because, well, I've got another meeting to attend? And depending on the decision, this person, the story for this person might go different ways. Well, there will be some input on the situation, but some more details, including some people who you know, like you see two colleagues you used to work with in the New York office. Jenny, or was it Debbie Burns, and Angela Dang, like you don't remember the name exactly. You had a good relationship and you're happy to see them now. But one of those ladies will have information with, oh no, not Dan again. So, and you know, there might be some clash of interest, but they don't know about what other people know. They only find it out when they start talking. Okay, well, when in the classroom I usually explain, like that's the big picture, but this is where we're now, like we're in the ABC Consulting headquarters, and this is what you have to do. They have time to prepare, and they start role play with it. After that, all sorts of feedback should be given, not just you to the students, but the students to you, to work on the role play. So, and well, as for the takeaways, I've just put together how beneficial stories turned into role plays can be, starting from the fact that that's active experiential learning, that it boosts interests, emotions, and that it's true to life, which provides usually better outcomes. Good, so this is the QR code. It here, but anyway, so I hope it works. So I will leave this slide after we finish, so that you can come closer and just go to the page to get this gift, to download it. Basically that's it. Now that you might want to ask me some questions or share your experience.
How long does one session of